Shalum. Shalom and welcome. Welcome to White Rose family. My name is Symmanayah, and these are the words I am compelled to present before an awakening nation. This is the 46th installment of White Rose family. And my brothers and sisters, I want to bring your attention to the importance of understanding the caves before and after. Now, many of you might say, what does this have to do with anything? And I say to you, my brothers and sisters, come and listen to these words. For end times are here. The scriptures speak of the great tribulation. The scriptures also speak of widespread destruction. It speaks of earthquakes in diverse places. My brothers and sisters, earthquakes are also akin to volcanic eruptions at times. It speaks of famine and pestilence. It speaks of much unpleasantry to these earthen vessels. It also speaks of deliverance. My brothers and sisters, make no mistake, end times will bring about some of the most excruciating pain that many will face. But it is important, O Yashar'al, though some will be spared the pain and the anguish, others will go through it. Even those who are obedient to the Almighty Father, some will go through the pain and anguish. Our emotions will be put in check as end times ramp up. And I say to you, my brothers and sisters, I have been compelled and charged to emphasize the importance of identifying the inward man, for this is where our strength lies through Yahusha Mashyach, through the power and might of the Spirit of Yahuah sent in Yahusha's name. The inward man, for our physical bodies will face some of the most challenging things we could have ever imagined, things that many would have thought they could not endure. And I'm going to show you, I'm going to present to you words. And if I am a servant of the Almighty Father Yahuah in Yahusha's name, these words will come alive and show you the relevance of this title, The Caves. Before I get into it, let me read the disclaimer. The information contained in White Rose family represent instructions and warnings to individuals who believe they are drawn by the Almighty Creator Yahuah to Yahusha Mashyach. Here I reference, my brothers and sisters, John 14:26. For so many people fail to realize, wrong citation, I believe is 6. And I say it often, so you would think I remember 6:44. I reference in John 6:44. And let me read it to you, my brothers and sisters. For many people might wonder, why does he say that all the time? It says, no one is able to come to me unless the Father who sent me draws him, and I shall raise him up in the last day. My brothers and sisters, it's important that we realize that the Father draws us to Yahusha Mashyach. And no man can come unto the Father except through him. Let me continue with this disclaimer. The content presented centers around end-time realities. Please be advised this site is not intended for children under 16 years of age due to its content, and that is to be compliant with the media platforms that I will use. By continuing forward, you agree to hold Symmanayah harmless of any influence or actions that arise as a result of watching, listening, and reviewing the content presented. The views expressed do not reflect the owners, management, and or shareholders of this media platform. Please also be advised that I am not affiliated with any other organizations, groups, or ministries with similar names. Yashar'al, the caves. I will submit to you, my brothers and sisters, why this is important for such a time as this. Listen carefully as we go through this. My brothers and sisters, understanding an age-old reminder, the earth and the caves. Are we not aware that the Almighty Father created the earth? Are we not aware that earthquakes and mountains, how they are formed, how tectonic plates collide, and as they collide, one plate drops under, another one rises up. In the midst of earthquakes, sometimes mountains are formed, my brothers and sisters. Are we not aware that when the earth melts, when parts of the earth melt, lava is melted rock. And this is what's spewed out of volcanoes along with ash. And I'm going to share with you, my brothers and sisters, something that I believe the Almighty Father revealed to me the other day. Are we not aware that when you have volcanoes and lava spew out, that it can form islands, a new landmass? Are you not aware that the scriptures talk about a new heaven and a new earth? Are you aware that there are some things in scriptures that are cyclical, like circular events, things that happen once may happen again with similar circumstances? One major example as it relates to end times, my brothers and sisters, is famine and pestilence came about on many occasions in the midst of Yashar'al, and end times speak of famine and pestilence again. It is written in the scriptures in Malachi 3:6 and James 1:17 that the Almighty Father does not change. Again, you might say, the earth and caves, what does that have to do with me? I will submit to you, my brothers and sisters, how this connects. Bear with me. I will take you to a point where I will share with you, my brothers and sisters, how I believe the Most High has given us an age-old reminder with the earth and the caves. I will submit to you, my brothers and sisters, how I believe if we come to understand the dynamics of this, we will come to understand how to find the Almighty Father Yahuah drawing us by looking in the cave thoroughly. So bear with me. And you might say, well, what is this cave? I believe that our physical bodies are similar to a cave. You see, a cave is forged by waters and the wind, and shaped by waters and wind, and it hollows out the mountains. And when the heat within the cave's floor becomes so extreme that it melts the rock, mountains spew out fire, lava, heated, melted rock. Bear with me, my brothers and sisters. There's a point to this. Let's consider the following as I read. Consider the stages of creation. Genesis chapter 1, verse 1 and 2 reads, in the beginning, the Almighty One created the heavens and the earth. And the earth came to be formless and empty, and darkness was on the face of the deep, and the Spirit of the Almighty One was moving on the face of the waters. I want to bring your attention that it is the Almighty Father. It is He who created the heavens and the earth. Okay, you say, I know that. Okay, let's continue. Dropping down, that was the Genesis 1, 1 and 2. Dropping down to Genesis 1, 26 and 27. And the Almighty One said, let us make man in our image according to our likeness, and let them rule over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the heaven, over the livestock, over all the earth, and over all the creeping creatures that creep upon the ground. And the Almighty One created the man in his image. In the image of the Almighty One, He created him. Male and female, He created them. Okay, you might say, I know that. Okay, let's move over to Genesis chapter 2, verse 7. And Yahuwah the Almighty One formed the man out of the dust from the ground and breathed into his nostrils breath of life, and man became a living being. You see, my brothers and sisters, our earthen vessel came from the earth. You see, my brothers and sisters, as the earth was shaped, as we see earthquakes causing a different different changes within our landscape. Mountains are formed, volcanoes erupting. I will submit to you, my brothers and sisters, our earthen vessel is similar to a cave formed by the Almighty Father from the earth, just as a natural cave is formed from the earth. And he breathed his breath and gave us life. And I submit to you, my brothers and sisters, just as the winds carve into the mountains and hollow out the caves, so did the Most High's breath, giving us life, hollowed out these earthen vessels where we have a spirit dwelling within this temple, within this vessel. And I would submit to you, my brothers and sisters, just as water can carve through the rocks. Remember, the scriptures talk about the word of the Almighty Father being as water. Stay with me, my brothers and sisters. You may wonder, what does this have to do with anything? And I will submit to you, as pain come, as excruciating pain come, as extreme challenges come during these end times, if we understand the dynamics of these earthen vessels as a cave and know the full dynamics of how it came to be, it will give us an idea of how to manage these vessels as end times ramp up. Stay with me, my brothers and sisters. I will connect it all together. Come with me, if you will, to Ecclesiastes 12:6 and 7. It says, remember him, for the silver cord is loose, and the golden bowl is broken, and the jar shattered at the fountain, and the wheel broken at the well. And the dust returns to the earth as it was, and the spirit returns to the Almighty One who gave it. My brothers and sisters, the Almighty Father created us. And he, by breathing life into us, he gave us a spirit, that inward man that is housed in this vessel. It is written that the Almighty Father doesn't dwell in temples made with hands. I submit to you, these earthen vessels are akin, similar to cave. Why is this important? If we stop at the cave, then surely you won't understand what I'm saying. But if we ask, how did the cave come to be? How did these earthen vessels come to be? By the word of the Almighty Father. For it is he who formed the earth. It is he who formed us. And if we begin to look at the inward man and not just stop at the cave and look beyond the cave, but look at who created it and who is within. You see, the Almighty Father is everywhere at all times. I'm going to submit to you, my brothers and sisters, a cave experience, something that you may not have ever heard put in this way before. But I believe, my brothers and sisters, it is relevant to end times preparation for our mind, body, and soul. Consider this, my brothers and sisters, as I continue to read. Psalm 46:6 says, the nation shall rage, rain shall topple, he shall give forth his voice, the earth melts. Does that sound like molten lava? The earth melts. Does that give us an idea, my brothers and sisters, that as end times ramp up, we will see the earth melting in places? I believe it is speaking of volcanic activity and more. Matthew 24:7 say, for a nation shall rise against nation and reign against reign, and they shall be scarcities of food and deadly diseases and earthquakes in places. Scarcity of food, deadly diseases, and earthquakes. All of these will bring about challenges to our emotions, O Yashar'al. Stay with me. There's a point to be made. 2 Peter 3:11-13 says, seeing all these are to be destroyed in this way, what kind of people ought you to be, and set apart behavior and reverence, looking for and hastening the coming of the day of the Almighty One, through which the heavens shall be destroyed, being set on fire, and the elements melt with intense heat. But according to his promise, we wait for a renewed heaven and a renewed earth in which righteousness dwell. My brothers and sisters, I believe the Most High is demonstrating his word, giving us a foreshadow of what's to come by showing us how volcanoes, when they erupt, and how lava is melted earth, melted rock that spits out of the volcano, as in fire, making a new island, a new landmass, bringing about a new earth in that footprint. You see, my brothers and sisters, when you read scriptures that the earth is everlasting, it doesn't say that the entire planet is everlasting. See, you can destroy the surface through volcanic activity and magma. You can destroy the surface of something, but not destroy the whole planet as a whole. And I believe the Almighty Father is saying to us, as earthen vessels, as we begin to focus on our inward man, we would realize that just as it is said, we will be like him. Do we not seek to be like the Almighty Father in terms of set apart, walking in righteousness? And I'm not saying be as he is, but I'm saying being a reflection of him as a child should be. My brothers and sisters, and I say to you, if the Almighty Father dwells in us and he's a consuming fire, is that not like fire shut up within our bones? And when we speak righteousness, when we speak set apartness, when we demonstrate set apartness, is that not like demonstrating the fire of Yahuah before those who watch? Is that not something that can be similar to what's said with a volcanic activity when it spews up lava and rock, when the fire and the heat comes and create anew? Have we not read where we die by day and are made anew by the power and might of the Almighty Father? Can you see the correlation, my brothers and sisters? End times are here. There's more. And I'm going to even bring it to an example that you may have never heard before. My brothers and sisters, the likeness of caves is not the end. You see, my brothers and sisters, for a natural cave in itself and all that, the scriptures talk about a new heaven and a new earth. For our earthen vessels, the scripture talk about that we will put off the corruptible and put on the incorruptible. So it doesn't stop with just these bodies. See, many of us stop with the race. We come to the point where we know that we're Hebrews and we raise ourselves up with pride and hubris and think we are entitled to the world. Being Hebrew is not enough. Being part of the chosen children of the Almighty Father doesn't stop there. For there are Gentiles, other nations, who are brought together, and we are made one by Yahusha Mashyach. And I say this all the time, my brothers and sisters. Who is able to tell you the color of the spirit of a man? See, we stop with this entitlement. We stop with such gratitude and realization that we're the chosen people, we who are Hebrews. But not all Hebrews are of the family of Hebrews that are set apart. There are wicked Hebrews just like there are wicked Gentiles, my brothers and sisters. Many fail to realize that we are and will be made one. Again, who can tell you the color of the spirit of a man? See, upon resurrection, upon our physical death, we depart from these earthen vessels, the skin color, the race. We become neither Jew nor Gentile or Hebrew or Greek, Abrahym or Goym. We become one in Yahusha Mashyach upon translation. So I say to you, my brothers and sisters, remember, the corruptible will put on the incorruptible. Come with me, my brothers and sisters, for there is great deliverance ahead. But between now and then, between now and our physical death, between now and those who will be alive when Yahusha returns, his physical return, there is much to understand. Stay with me, my brothers and sisters. I think you may be pleasantly surprised as I continue. Remember, the corruptible put on the incorruptible, and there is everlasting life. 1 Corinthians 15:53 say, for this corruptible has to put on incorruption, and this mortal to put on immortality. And when this corruptible has put on incorruption, and this mortal has put on immortality, then shall come by the word that has been written, death is swallowed up in overcoming. I'm basically trying to get you, well, not trying, I'm delivering these words to get you to realize that there is something more powerful than the earthen vessel you see before you. Not to take for granted this vessel as a temple of the Almighty Father. Not taking it for granted, but understanding the dynamics of what's ahead. Matthew 19:29 said, and everyone who has left house and brothers and sisters or father or mother or wife or children or lands for my name's sake shall receive 100-fold and shall inherit everlasting life. Again, bringing to your attention, my brothers and sisters, there is more. There's more to remember. There's more to consider as it relates to the incorruptible life that we have through our spirits in the corruptible life. There's more to understand as it relates to the inward and outer man. Consider these words, Yashar'al. Again, if you are one who want to know how to withstand the challenges, the emotion, and the pain that lies ahead, take heed to this message. Even if it's necessary, play it again. Galatians 1:11 and 12 say, and I make known to you, brothers, that the good news announced by me is not according to man. For I did not receive it from man, nor was I taught it through the revelation, nor was I taught it, but through a revelation of Yahusha Mashyach. This is Shalum letting them know how he came to understand being drawn by the Almighty Father. And I will submit to you, my brothers and sisters, when we recognize how we are drawn by the Almighty Father, then we can begin to yield to his set-apart spirit sent in Yahusha's name. We can begin to grow as we are designed to grow. Yashar'al, dropping down to the 15th verse, Galatians chapter 1, 15 through 18. But when it pleased the Almighty One who separated me from my mother's womb and called me by his favor to reveal his Son in me, that I might bring him the good news to the nation, I did not immediately consult with flesh and blood, neither did I go up to Jerusalem to those who were emissaries before me, but I went to Arabia and returned again to Damascus. Then after 3 years I went up in Jerusalem to learn from Kepha and remained with him for 15 days. Yashar'al, my brothers and sisters, we will grow to understand. We will grow to understand and discern the one in the mirror, that we have an earthen vessel. We have a spirit within. We will grow to discern all that is before us. We will grow to discern the wicked one as he attacks us, sometimes through our eyes, through our ears, what we see, what we hear, and oftentimes through things we cannot see or hear, through wicked spiritual influences. But say hallelujah, my brothers and sisters, and know this, our inward man is joined with the Almighty Father Yahuah. In the name of Yahusha, we will discover Yahusha Mashyach. We will discover within these caves, it's the breath of the Almighty Father that gives us life. Within these caves, these earthen vessels, hollowed out by his word, speaking of Deuteronomy 8:3, man doesn't live by bread alone, but every word that proceeds out of the Almighty Father. It is said that his spirit is akin to breath, and I say he breathed life into us moment by moment, my brothers and sisters. We will come to understand that there's a fire within us. Joined with the Almighty Father Yahuah, we have a fire within our bones, my brothers and sisters. And we will begin to become strengthened as the Almighty Father discipline and refine us. We will have the strength, in spite of all the challenges that end times bring, we will have the strength to go beyond the pain, to move beyond the emotional challenges. Are you not aware of Stephen, one who was stoned, but yet shouted out to the Almighty Father in spite of the pain of being stoned? So I say to you, my brothers and sisters, when we can look beyond the cave, beyond the earthen vessel, it will help us endure the pain that is ahead. When we begin to understand that the Almighty Father will deliver us, it will help us endure the pain of just changing our lifestyle, adjusting and adapting to what is important, O Yashar'al. The cave, fire, and life. Now let me take you to something that will bring this a little bit closer to home and a little bit to the point where you may understand it better. Come with me to this passage. My brothers and sisters, if you haven't already, I invite you to visit 1 Kings chapter 19, verse 9 through 15. It's about Elijah, Eliyahu, who had a cave experience. Eliyahu, who had a cave experience. Come with me to 1 Kings chapter 19, my brothers and sisters. 1 Kings chapter 19. It reads as follows. And there he went into a cave and spent the night there. And see, the word of Yahuah came to him and said to him, "What are you doing here, Eliyahu?" Or Elijah. And he said, "I've been very jealous for Yahuah, the Almighty One of hosts, for the children of Yashar'al have forsaken your covenant. They have thrown down your slaughter places. They have killed your prophets with the sword, and I am left, I alone, and they seek my life to take it." And he said, "Go out and stand on the mountain before Yahuah and see." Yahuah passed by in a great and strong wind, tearing the mountains and breaking the rocks in pieces before Yahuah was not in the wind. And after the wind, an earthquake. Yahuah was not in the earthquake. And after the earthquake, a fire. Yahuah was not in the fire. And after the fire, a still small voice. And it came to be when Eliyahu heard it, that he wrapped his face in his robe and went out and stood on the cave opening, and see, a voice came to him saying, "What are you doing here, Eliyahu?" Which is Elijah. And he said, "I've been very jealous." So he's saying again, "Of Yahuah, the Almighty One of hosts, of the children of Yashar'al have forsaken your covenant. They have thrown down your solid places. They have killed your prophets with the sword, and I am left alone, and they seek my life to take it." And Yahuah said to him, "Go, return to your way to the wilderness of Damascus, and you shall go in and anoint Hezekiah as king over Aram." My brothers and sisters, I want to bring to your attention Elijah's cave experience. You see, my brothers and sisters, if we stop with just race, then we don't understand the dynamics when it says you're neither Jew nor Gentile, but one in Yahusha Mashyach. If we stop with race. If we ignore race, then how can the end times be fulfilled, talking about Jews and Gentiles or Hebrews and Goym or Abrahym and Goym coming together as one, if we cannot identify who's a Hebrew or who's Abrahym? Who are the other nations? We must recognize race and nationality. How could Revelation 7 chapter talk about the 12 tribes if we ignore them? But we must not stop there, my brothers and sisters. Just like Elijah's cave experience. Now let me tie this to some reality that may apply directly to you or me and us. Consider this. Elijah went to the cave looking. And he thought he was alone. So he was by himself going to the cave. So here he's recognizing himself. And he made a decision to hide in the cave, thinking that that's where the answer was. It wasn't the rock. It wasn't safety in the cave. It's what he discovered. Even with the fire and the wind that was revealed to him, that wasn't it. But we see he discovered the voice of the Almighty Father Yahuah. Within a natural cave, within the cave of his earthen vessel, he came to listen to the voice of the Almighty Father, as I just read. And I say to you, my brothers and sisters, when we begin to listen to the voice of the Almighty Father, then we know what we're supposed to do. And if you read the full story, you will find out that Elijah found out he was not alone, just as you are not alone. Elijah found out that there were many, many more. My brothers and sisters, let me say to you, it's written where there are a cloud of witnesses before us. Yashar'al, we're not alone. Not by far. Bear with me a second. I believe it's Hebrews 12:1. Hebrews 12:1 lets us know that there is a cloud of witnesses. We're not alone. Never feel alone, my brothers and sisters. Though I talk about this earthen vessel as being a cave, we have the Spirit of Yahuah. Each of us have the Spirit of Yahuah in us, in the name of Yahusha, those who are drawn by him to Yahusha Mashyach. Never forget the power of what's inside the cave. In other words, let's not stop. Let us not stop with these earthen vessels. Rise up, O Yashar'al, and understand that there is an inward man. There is the outer man. And as we face challenges, as we face extreme challenges as end times ramp up, let us discover within these caves the voice of Yahuah speaking to us in the name of Yahusha, directing our footsteps. Let us understand the dynamics, that it is more to us than these earthen vessels. This will help endure and help get through some of the challenges. Challenges like leaving funerals, not going to funerals of loved ones that have passed, because we must press forward. Challenges where purging people that we love from our midst that are not seeking to do the will of the Almighty Father, or are pursuing a rebellious track. Pain of adjusting, my brothers and sisters, to different eating habits, drinking habits, interacting with one another, adjusting and adapting. End times bring about challenges, and it is time that we begin to practice moving into those transitions, my brothers and sisters. Make no mistake, there is much occurring, there is much happening, even though individually some of us are not paying attention. Some of us has dismissed listening in or looking at anything regarding signs of the times. But remember, my brothers and sisters, preparation is a component of growing in set apartness. Never forget what is inside, and this will help us to endure. My brothers and sisters, Elijah found within the cave the voice of Yahuah. Some of us are in our homes, apartments, as if though it's a cave. But we're not alone, my brothers and sisters. Soon and very soon, as Isaiah 11:12 speak, he will gather his children from the four corners of the earth. And in the 43rd chapter, it speaks of those for his esteem. My brothers and sisters, if we begin to look at these earthen vessels and look what's inside this earthen vessel, we will see that it is hollowed out by the power and might and the Spirit, the word of the Almighty Father, that we have life by the Almighty Father. In Yahusha's name, we come to understand, for he has made us capable of seeing. My brothers and sisters, there are plans that are unfolding. Seek to discern them. He may be giving them to you. He may be drawing you to those plans. White Rose family, has a plan. And if you pause this slide, I would say read. I speak on it often, my brothers and sisters. Don't you want to be able to have someone, a go-to group of counselors, team leaders that have been vetted, proven to be chosen by the Almighty Father? Wouldn't you like to be among individuals who, when they don't have an answer, they can point you to a resource and information center to bring about answers that are necessary for your furtherance, for our furtherance in Yashar'al? Wouldn't you like to see a go-to place where there are core leaders with different skill sets? Wouldn't you like to see, or at least reach out to someone to help you in various expertise and experiences that you are growing into? Or wouldn't you like to network with people who have various skill sets to help mentor those who are unlearned or undiscerned? My brothers and sisters, White Rose Family's plan will indeed flourish to be such. We will build a team. We will build a virtual information center. We will seek to purchase land in the state of Virginia, where I believe that would be the exit point for those on the Western Hemisphere. I speak of it often. We will identify and make known support safe zones as Yashar'al is moving from one point to another in preparation from being gathered from the four corners of the earth, in preparation from reaching the promised land, to provide guidance and support for completing our journey, wherever that may be, as guided by the Almighty Father, to provide guidance for the inner court life. And I say the inner court life, my brothers and sisters, for this indeed is the life that the Almighty Father has given us. That inner court life is the set apart life by Yahusha Mashyach, to provide instructions and demonstration on what we must do while waiting on Yahusha Mashiach's physical return, to provide support to those who are ordered to stay in place that will not be gathered before the physical return, to strengthen them, to let them know in spite of the widespread destruction and pain that will come, within this cave, this earthen vessel, is a spirit that will prove to have everlasting life, that will prove to have much life ahead of it, in spite of the widespread destruction that is about to be unleashed more widely upon the face of the earth. Yashar'al, the realities of what to expect are before us. I ask, if I'm saying anything that's relative to life that draws you to Yahuah in the name of Yahusha, consider subscribing. Consider sharing. Sometimes, my brothers and sisters, others might listen and get something that you didn't get. Or others may listen and you may have gotten something that they didn't get. And by communicating, you iron out the wrinkles, my brothers and sisters. As iron sharpens iron, you identify what is important. I ask for your support. I ask for you to consider contributing information, skill sets, expertise, resources, and money. Consider sponsoring a plan that will prove to be beneficial to those drawn by the Almighty Father. And I am confident that He harden hearts and soften hearts. And I believe in due season, my brothers and sisters, He will prove all the plans He has given to His chosen ones that will lead to us coming together in unity. I've set up a Cash App, White Rose Family, and you can also contribute financially through PayPal. But more than anything, reach out, my brothers and sisters. Let us begin to prepare. Let us learn how to vet and ask one another questions to identify where we truly are in our worship and obedience to the Almighty Father. You see these words at the bottom of the screen often, my brothers and sisters, if you have looked at more than one recording. These are words to stimulate and latch on to your spirit, to question one another. For in questioning, answers come. In questioning, we uncover things. My brothers and sisters, we have found favor in the Almighty Father. If you're listening to this, first and foremost, the favor of life. Next, we have found favor by the skills we have adapted or grown into, the expertise we have grown to have, the education we have come to receive, whether it be traditional or non-traditional, whether it be directly linked to scriptures or connected to scriptures. My brothers and sisters, all that we've received is by the favor we receive from the Almighty Father. So let us learn to use it or lose it. For when the economies crash, the wealth that you have now will be much less. When economy and famine and pestilence ramp up and end times ramp up and disease and famine come about, the stamina and strength that you have now, some of us will not have. So while we can, when we can, let us seek to identify what the Almighty Father is saying to us in order that we may fully demonstrate, contribute to the building up of the sovereignty of Yahusha Mashyach, to the building up of all that is set apart, to the lifting up of the Almighty Father through Yahusha Mashyach. My brothers and sisters, the cave experience. Elijah went into the cave, thought he was alone, and he discovered who hollowed out the cave. We see examples, as I read, while he was in the cave, how he saw fire and wind. But he didn't get his answer, my brothers and sisters, until the quietness, until he began to realize that it wasn't the cave itself. It wasn't the wind just blowing. It wasn't just fire. For all of that came from the Almighty Father. It was the power and might of his word. For he formed all and created all by his word. And we will discover the realities ahead, O Yashar'al. On that note, I know this, I believe this was probably a challenge, and some of you still may not understand this. But there are those who will get it and understand that when we look at this cave, this earthen vessel, when we look at that inward man linked to the power and might of the Almighty Father Yahuah by Yahusha Mashyach, that is what's going to give us the strength to endure what is ahead, O Yashar'al. On that note, I salute your patience, your tolerance, and if you do not understand the words that was presented, present them before the Almighty Father to seek understanding. For I am confident that in Isaiah 11:55, in Isaiah 55:11, 55th chapter, verse 11, when it talks about his words will not return void, the Almighty Father, if he is speaking these words of life to strengthen and move others closer to him, preparing us, you, me, for end times that will become intense, if indeed there is life in these words, they will do what they were set out to do. The caves, before and after, from birth to death, understand where to find the voice of the Spirit of Yahuah. Look within, my brothers and sisters, and believe that he is there. In the name of Yahusha, I salute your patience, your tolerance, and your pursuit of set apartness. On that note, I say to you, my brothers and sisters, Shalum.